Hello, hope all is well. I'm now wanting to scratch my tier list itch. I now have enough images compiled for me to consider this one. So, note the use of the word games in the title, not video games. Here's the first one Monopoly. I love Monopoly. I used to play it a lot. Uh, for manual ones, I always liked to be banker. Mostly because whenever I'd play with my sister or whoever, they'd just be like, yeah, you just do it. So, I'm quite used to being banker. But for Monopoly, let's go A tier. Solid board game. I think I've discovered some better card and board games over the years, but Monopoly's a strong start. It's a brilliant example of a good board game that just hits all the right premises on what makes a board game fun. POV, you are somebody that hates Monopoly for it being 5 hours long. I personally enjoy the fact it's 5 hours long. We are not the same. Next up, Bioshock. Fantastic game. One of my favorite plot twists in a video game, I have to say. I really enjoyed it. Entertaining storyline, enough to keep you going. I'm gonna stick this one in A tier, I think. I might have to just start immediately doing the half thing. So let's do it. Again, so like with last tier list when I did the VTubers one, I sort of went, this isn't the order of the tier, this is just everything in the tier. I might adopt that principle this time because there's quite a few images. But I'll be like, oh yeah, I'd put this one about here, about here. Of course, with my usual caveat of I might do some changes in the tiers as we go. Next up, Pokemon Ranger. So, for anybody that's played the mainline Pokemon games, yeah, this one was on the DS. Very good fun. I'm surprised that they never made one for, say, the Wii U, because the Wii U had that second screen, didn't it, that you could use as a touchscreen. So I'm surprised there wasn't ever a Wii U Pokemon Ranger. Be really fun to see another one. I really want another Pokemon Ranger. Say, for instance, one on the Switch. That would be wicked. Anyway, Pokemon Ranger, you know what? It's another 8 here. It's going right here. Very nice. Next up, Call of Duty World at War. So, World at War, I think, had one of the weakest multiplayer aspects. I enjoyed it personally, but I think compared to the Modern Warfare series, and yes, I'm talking about the original Modern Warfare, it's not the new 1, 2, 3, which really they should have just called 4, 5, and 6, and just had a storyline of 20 years after the effects of Modern Warfare 3. But they didn't. They just decided a hard reboot was a really good idea. So I'm counting the first three. Anyway, World at War. I love zombies. The campaign, despite it being very grenade heavy, was very good. I mean, you couldn't move more than about 5 feet without seeing the grenade icon, panicking, running away, and then running into a grenade that was 3 feet the other side. But the campaign was really good. I think this one deserves high A, low S, so I'll stick it S tier for now. I think that might move down to A, but for now, know that it sort of borders. Next up, Civilization 5. Okay, you know what? I might do this to World at War, just let some other cooler things in that are higher in S tier. The production value on this. So 5. One of my favourite strategy games for sure. I think it's a little unfortunate that when you hit Immortal and Deity, if you're not playing like tradition straight into Renaissance, you're going to be behind. I.e., you've not got the flexibility to do anything other than science, because science rules all. If your science is high, then you can get to all the culture buildings faster. If your science is high, you can build the spaceship first. If your science is high, you get the idea. So this is pretty much just have science or else just don't bother. Other than that, really good game. I really enjoy it. Weirdly, I don't know if I'd quite say it's S tier though. I do prefer the movement in Civ 5 over Civ 6, by the way. I haven't played much of Civ 6, but I'm aware that, say for instance, you need to move onto a hill and you've got one movement, you can't move onto the hill because you need the solid 2. I prefer how Civ 5 did movement. I also prefer how Civ 5 doesn't have unit stacking. Civ 4 had a thing where you could just stack like 200 units or whatever on one square and just move them all. And that was just overkill. So I think about here is right. Somewhere low S. I don't think it's... I think it's like super, super top. But I do love the game. So it's weird for me to say that it's not like a solid S and then it's just kind of borderlining it. But there you go. Not everything in life is equal. I can't remember if I put Nobunaga's Ambition, Spear, Influence, Ascension in this list. If I did, brilliant. We'll talk about it later. If not, then it's in S tier. I actually think I enjoyed Nobunaga's Ambition as much as I enjoyed Civ 5, so I'd probably go where Civ 5 is as well. Anyway, next, Nier Automata. Oh, this is an easy one. It's a very easy one. I've talked about this. I talked about how much I love the soundtrack. The game is just wonderful. It's so honestly, it's just sublime. The game, I love it. So it's in my top 5. It's not my most played game, but whenever I touch it, I do enjoy it. I did also learn how to speedrun playthrough 1 back in the days. Don't think I could do it anymore, but that was a fun experience. Next up, XCOM 2. I mean, there's all kinds of different cool units in XCOM 2, but why use any of them when you can just have a whole team of rangers just go along and double tap shotgun everything in the game? Hilariously. But to be honest, XCOM 2 is a very fun game. You can probably tell my allure goes towards strategy games at this point. I think XCOM can also sit in S tier. Don't worry, Jollification by the Lightning Seeds will be used. It's sitting there ready. There's stuff in the hopper for it. Next up, Mario Smash Football. Now, for those who are confused, you're probably American. This is the original Mario Strikers. Because you guys call it soccer, even though that itself comes from the term association of football. So, yeah. Your football's hand egg. Anyway, Mario Smash Football, wonderful game. I did also enjoy Strikers Charged, which is a sequel, which for some reason they decided to just make it be called Strikers Charged for both NA and EU. They decided not to make it, I don't know, like Smash Football Charged. I think they realised that they might as well just have the same title. / Americanization over here is a very real thing. Smash Football's fantastic. I don't think it's S tier though. I think I can safely put it in A tier though. I really enjoyed just bashing everyone and giving them loads of items and just constantly having Toads just head stomp everything into fences. Next up, Super Mario Sunshine. So I specify Sunshine here. It's my favourite of the Mario 3D games. Yes, that includes Mario 64. It's just solid, you know. That's why it's gonna sit here. S for solid and Sunshine. You know what? I'm happy to keep Call of Duty World at War in S tier. Civ 5 can also stay in S tier. XCOM can stay in S tier until further notice. Next up, Monster Hunter World. Specifically World instead of Rise. I picked up the picture for Iceborne here, but of course it's just Monster Hunter World in its entirety. Even though Iceborne did do some nice stuff. Plus, I loved the Velkhana theme. I'm glad they kept the Velkhana theme over when they made Rise. So, for me, World sits here. I love Monster Hunter World. Love it. My main weapon changes all the time, but when I last really played World, it was Greatsword. Which, when I then moved over to play Rise, I think I started preferring the bow in Rise, but I don't think I picked up an image for Rise. Let's put Rise top of S tier. Very good game, nearly as good as World, but I think what separates World and Rise for me. Now, I said to the lads before I prefer Rise over World, but I think what actually makes World better is that there's more like events. And I don't mean event quests, even though I think there's slightly more event quests in Rise than there is in World. Not a lot in it, but what I mean by events is stuff like, the Call to Wrath and the Savage Eva hunts were group things that you could do together that were like the equivalent of like a raid boss. You'd fight them, and then it's like an incremental challenge fight, as opposed to just go in, do the hunt, done. Which is what I think Rise lacks. Rise is just like, oh yes, go kill this. I mean, I've done a Matsu in, I think my fastest time was just under 5 minutes. So, I consider Rise basically conquered for me at this point. Whereas I'd go back and probably play World, but Rise, I'm like, yeah, this is done. So yeah, that justifies World and Rise, I guess. Next up, Rocket League. Now, don't get me wrong, Rocket League is fun. It's a very mechanically challenging game. If you don't play the game for a while, your skills start to scrub off. And the problem with Rocket League is it's a game you want to play for a couple of months. You decide, I'm starting to get into this game now, get really good at it. And then you improve your skill, and then you don't touch it for another 8 months. I've also gone off PvP games these days. If I'm honest, I don't like playing against other people. There's only so many times you can play against all-star bots in tourneys and just go, yep, I'm done. So for me, I think that Rocket League actually drops these days to either a C or a D tier. Let's stick it in C tier. I think that's a respectable tier. But don't get me wrong, the game itself is entertaining and engaging, and it's not the tier of other stuff, quite honestly. Next up, Mario Kart 8. So I might have discussed this in the OST tier list, but Deluxe 8 has grown on me. I used to prefer Double Dash and Wii, but these days I think Mario Kart 8 is there. So I'm going to stick Mario Kart 8 in probably high S tier. It might move up to my top 5 if I haven't got my top 5 completely sorted. Not gonna lie, I can't remember quite what I had in mind for my top 5, but this is close. Next up, Super Auto Pets. So SAP's been around for 3 years now? I've gone from extremely loving the game and being obsessed with it to, yeah, it's a cool game, I guess. I'll have a little look, to, oh, this game's awesome, I'm gonna get back on it, to back to not really playing it much. I haven't touched it for a few months now. I know the Mythical Beasts update is out. I think it's called the Unicorn Pack. I've seen footage of the Unicorn Pack, but I haven't played with it. That's about the last time I touched SAP. I think this game's worthy of a B tier overall. It's one of those. It's fun. The replayability comes from the randomness of how to achieve what the wins and stuff. I think people that would play Arena more would probably rank it higher, but for me, I think it's about a B tier, quite honestly. Next up, FIFA Street. Honestly, when I grabbed the image, initially, I thought it was just the picture of the dude doing the kick, but then I realised it's also the back of the PlayStation 2 cover, but personally, I have it on GameCube, so this is a little wrong here. But FIFA Street, as much as I don't like football, because I don't really like football much in real life, nor do I play much in the way of video football games. It's really just Mario Smash Football, and I think my FIFA was 2002, 2003. I think I had FIFA 2003. and I enjoyed that. But otherwise, I really like FIFA Street. FIFA Street is awesome. The stuff you can do with the tricks and everything is just great. So I'm gonna stick at A tier. I think it's probably, you know what, just for the sake of interest, let's do about that. Again, this is gonna be out of order eventually, but I think if I was to rate these two together, FIFA Street comes after Mario Smash Football. Did I put Mario Golf Toadstool Tour on this list? I don't think I did, because that'd probably be S tier. Anyway, Odd School RuneScape. So OSRS, yeah, it's got so much notoriety behind the game that I don't think I need to explain what it is realistically. Don't play RuneScape 3, by the way, in my opinion. RuneScape 3 is probably E tier. Meanwhile, OSRS gets a B tier, I think. It's a fun game. It's another one. It's almost exactly like Super Auto Pets. You get playing it for a while, and then you just don't play it for ages, and then you go, oh yes, I had an account back then, and then you realise that these days the price of bonds is like 4 times as much as you remember it being. So anyway, Wind Waker. This is a difficult one because it's either in my top 5 or next to my top 5. This is my favourite Zelda game, if I'm honest. The soundtrack, didn't I put it in my top 5? I think I did. Or it was S tier, one of the two. Back when I did my OST tier list. It realistically, Wind Waker would sit like about where Sunshine is, honestly. It's like in my top 10, I think, but just like high up here. We're talking specifically video games, this is my top 10. Games, I think it falls just out of. Because there's some good games in here that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Next up, The Adventure in His Backpack. You may or may not have seen a couple of videos I've done on the game. I think it's a sweet little game. There's not much to it. It's not got much meat and potatoes, but it's just a fun pick up every now and then and make have fun with it, and then put back down for a little while. It's one of those. So I think I'll give it more respect than it deserves, though. I think I gave it less respect than what I should do, is what I mean. So it's going there. Next up, Pikmin. I do want to try and cover as many of the games I talked about in my OST tier list as possible. I can't put games in such as Dark Souls, though, because for me to be able to give an opinion on a game, I have to have, played the game enough to say, hey, this is what I think. Can't do that with Dark Souls, but the music for it's really good. Nor can I rate Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, unfortunately, for the same reason. But that's not Pikmin. Pikmin is really fun. I think it's a high A, to be honest. Personally, I just love grabbing a load of Pikmin and then using the C stick and just doing the and just watching them all go around. Plus, it's nice to collect a whole load of Pikmin with flowers. If you didn't know, the Pikmin's leaves turn into buds, then they turn into flowers. Depending on how long they're in the ground when you leave them to grow, slash when you give Pikmin that are out in the overworld honey and stuff like that. So you can actually upgrade Pikmin. If you didn't know. I'm sure everybody knows that by now, though. Next up, Perfect Dark. I loved the hell out of the multiplayer maps. The custom map mode where I just go around and shoot bots. I say multiplayer mode like I actually played with people. The story was not particularly great. The target practice mode was fun though. The target challenge was good, and I enjoyed multiplayer. So I think it's a B tier. I think. But that's about as reasonable as I can give Perfect Dark there. So, next up, Need for Speed Underground 2. Racing is yet another genre I'm not a fan of. Just prefacing, I'm not a fan of racing games. But honestly, with all the license, the soundtrack for Underground 2, I couldn't cover it in the music tier list because I gave the conditions of the music had to be original, whereas Underground 2 used a lot of licensed music, such as Riders on the Storm and stuff like that. But honestly, this game probably does this. It might move down, But I think Underground 2 might just do that for the now. You can just perch there and then move down to S tier where appropriate. So that's going there for now. Next up, Time Crisis. So they did release a couple of the Time Crisis games on consoles because of the whole. There was the light gun on PlayStation. There was also a similar one on PlayStation 2 that was somehow worse than the one on the PlayStation. But I'm talking specifically the arcade booth versions of Time Crisis here, because I quite liked the pedal, and the arcade guns were very responsive. It's very cool. I used to enjoy it. I think I'm going to stick this in B tier too. I don't think it hits quite the same, but the nostalgia of getting the, sticking a pound in the machine and just action and just going for it is there for sure. So I think Time Crisis is probably set up here in B tier, but again, whatever. It's all in B tier. It's all the same. Next up is The Sims. So I spoke about how the Sims soundtrack is kind of arse. I believe I gave it a roughly about a C tier or D tier, one of the two. But the game itself is really good fun. I'm gonna stick Sims 4 in probably low A tier here. I'm not gonna do the whole. Oh, I mean, I am technically by pointing it out, but there's the whole. Oh, The Sims was never a game that actually had people in it to begin with. It was just an architecture simulator, and then they added The Sims in last minute. But I like the customization of both my houses and my families in The Sims. It's good fun. Next up, Super Mario Bros. 3. So, while Sunshine's the best of the 3Ds, Super Mario Bros. 3 contests with World as the best of the 2Ds, if I'm honest. I used to like the fact that Super Mario Bros. 3 is like all stage centered. So like the levels had like curtains and stuff, and there was cards, and I liked the whole chicanery going on with Super Mario Bros. 3. I think it's worthy of an A tier. I personally don't think it's quite S tier, but I think it's very close. Again, if I was to physically do it, I think it would sit above Monopoly, but I think this time around I can't be bothered to move too many in before I move everything around. Next up is Lego Star Wars. I'm going to put Lego Star Wars and Lego Star Wars 2 in the same category because they're the same game. There was one which, as you can see, this one's the complete saga, so they put two in together, but originally it was releasing of one and then of the next. But these were solid games. I think this was the only Lego game that I could consider worthy of A or above, honestly. I think the rest of the Lego games sit about here. And then the ones where they start to actually probably animate the mouths and not just make it the sound effects for Lego go like down in E tier, I think, because I think it ruins my immersion of what the Lego does. Next up. So this is the image I wanted to represent. So some people say charades, some people say charades. I say it's a big pile of crap, and this is the reason why I put it in for being able to make Trollification by the Lightning Seeds viable tier again. Yeah, it's there. I think there's one or two more in Trollification by the Lightning Seeds, but charades is probably the most set as for sure. It's in there. Next up, Slice and Dice. I've had the demo version on my phone forever. There's going to be the official Steam release of this game soon, which I'm looking forward to. I think when Slice and Dice hits Steam, I'll put some videos out because I'll have the full version. So I'm actually looking forward to that. I'll be pogging out my gourd because it's a really good game. Let's stick it. With that being said, bearing in mind I've only really played the demo version. I'm going to stick it in A. I love how the game sets itself up. I've also made it very clear that I like coin and dice-based mechanics. I mean, hell, I use coins to decide so much. Next up. So, this is Solitaire, but I'm going to educate those who are unaware. The game that everybody refers to as Solitaire is a type of Solitaire instead of actual Solitaire, I guess, because the most famous form of Solitaire is Klondike Solitaire, which is what you're looking at. Free Cell is another version of Solitaire where you have the cards done differently. You've also got over here as well, for instance, Solitaire also goes by the name of Patience, to which you then have Hand Patience, which I really like, which is where you have the whole deck. You pull from the front of the deck, but from the back, sorry. So you pull the back card out to face out to the front, and then you have to remove cards as they come. It's pretty good. And then there's Clock Patience, or Clock Solitaire, which is where you put 12 o'clock through to 11 o'clock, and then you have a centerpiece, and then you've got the 13, and the idea is that you flick over the start of one, and then it clears to wherever it lands, which is quite fun. So, but I think specifically Solitaire that people will know as Solitaire, i.e. Klondike, I think sits about an A tier for me. I do enjoy every now and then flicking onto it. So that will sit there. Oh, Grand Theft Auto. I need to leave to the side. I've got a specific thing about Grand Theft Auto. I just need to find the other image. So instead of talking about Grand Theft Auto, let's talk about Grand Theft Auto at home, i.e. Simpsons Hit and Run. I enjoyed Simpsons Hit and Run. For a Simpsons-based GTA game, it was quite fun to just go around and be who I wanted and grab whatever vehicles I wanted and mess around in the Simpsons world. Or I guess you could call it mess around in the town of Springfield. I think it's worthy of a B tier. I did prefer Road Rage. I don't know if Road Rage is in my tier list. I can't remember if I've got it, but if I have got Simpsons Road Rage, you'll probably see it about S tier. Hit and Run, though, can sit in B tier. Next up, Roblox. You're going to hate this. So, Roblox. I think I discussed before. It's a game where you can make any type of game you want. There are people that have as much creative freedom to make any kind of game they want. So they make the same game as Fred Blogs. There's about 3 different types of games in Roblox. Almost almost every kind of game that's being made on Roblox is a freaking like idler or a tycoon. I think Roblox is a C tier. The potential of C tier is S. The actual execution of what Roblox allows is C tier. I mean, I've been kind of enjoying the game Pull the Sword, but also on console I have this Gorm where some of the buttons don't work right. So I'm playing Pull the Sword a little bit, and the event shop for the special hunt event isn't working at all. So it's not actually worth me doing it, for instance. Or I once played Lawnmower Simulator, enjoyed it, and then after a while it just stopped giving me the wins or whatever. Some of the games are broken. On top of a lot of them are quite the same. I did play with my cousin. There's one which is kind of the equivalent of Trouble in Terrorist Town, which is quite fun. But as I say, for the most part, there's so many repeat games that Roblox feels a bit lackadaisical. If I'm honest, it could be worthy of so much more. Next up, Street Fighter 2. So, Street Fighter was a lot of fun back in the days. But I'm not trying to be like, oh, it hasn't stood the test of time. But although I say it was fun back then, it's a game that, if I had a fighting game, Street Fighter was not necessarily my pick. We used to play a lot more of Tekken over Street Fighter. So I think I'm going to put Street Fighter in B if I'm honest. It's not It's not my fighting series. Next up, Elder Scrolls Oblivion. So, I have the two most obvious Elder Scrolls games in the tier list. You can probably guess where Skyrim's going to go. I think Oblivion will sit high A/low S, but again, I'm just going to move it to here. But realistically, Oblivion's about here, in amongst FIFA Street, Pokemon Ranger kind of tier. There's some things about Oblivion that I thought were cool. For instance, why did they remove the unhanded skill from Skyrim? There was no need. The unhanded skill should have just remained. That's like my favourite form of combat in the Elder Scrolls games, and it's just so disappointing in Skyrim. I think there's a couple mod overhauls that allow for unarmed to actually shine, but yeah. And I'm not including the whole Gloves of the Pugilist restoration potion thing for Skyrim, but that's more of a Skyrim talk than an Oblivion thing. I also like in Oblivion how you had athletics and acrobatics. Really cool. Plus, I used to really enjoy the arena questline for Oblivion. Next up, 42 all-time classics. So, with 42 all-time classics on the DS, there is one game specifically that would eat a lot of my time and I really enjoyed, and that was Koi Koi. I actually own a Hanafuda deck. They're tiny. I once took a picture of the deck with a peg next to it for scale. Honestly, the cards are that small. The peg was bigger than the cards, by the way. So Koi Koi itself, I can't remember if I have a picture for Koi Koi, but I think that's kind of what I wanted 42 all-time classic for. Koi Koi is like S tier. I think 42 all-time classics might actually sit in S tier as well, though, to both represent Koi Koi and I did used to enjoy. What else was there on 42? I used to enjoy. They had a few of the card games were good, so I could play I quite enjoyed President. I played a bit of Bridge. There's some good games on 42. Just the darts was terrible. Okay, Pokemon Stadium. Easy S tier. Let's just pop. Actually, let's do this. Yeah. Again, some of the parts of 42 drag it down, as I just mentioned, darts was arse. So, and so was bowling. Some of the mini games were unresponsive, but Pokemon Stadium 2, Pokemon Stadium and Stadium 2, if I haven't got Stadium 2 in the tier list, it's because I rate it about the same as Stadium, right? So, the Stadium games were so much fun. The battles that you could do, the whole gym battle system at the side. You then had the cup tournaments in the battle hall, the mini games, the quiz. Also, for those who don't know, I think I've discussed this before, and everybody always seems surprised when I mention this. With Stadium, you used to be able to nickname your Pokemon in the cartridges, put them onto Stadium, and the Pokemon would be different color to default. So, for instance, I had a Gyarados called Jaws, right? I put him in Stadium. I exported him in via the game cartridge. He's a dark, like Prussian blue, as opposed to his light blue that Gyarados normally is. Or, for instance, I once did a test. I think I named a Squirtle Jim or something. Pulled him in, and he had a yellow shell, and he himself was more of a green color. So it had a very cool way of making Pokemon with nicknames sort of cooler. You also see it in the gym leaders and the gym battles on the gym tower side of it, which is fun. Sorry about that. I'm back to being on now. I just needed to mute myself for a second there. And then I have my shortcut set up, which apparently is the same as zoom out. Has it done much for the size of the... No, we're good. Sorry about that. I also just wanted to double check the recording side of things. So, Borderlands. Wonderfully gimmicky and crazy game, for sure. The first one had a lot of good humour in it. I feel that although there's parts of the follow-up Borderlands games which are funny, I feel most of the humour comes from it was trying to replicate what Borderlands was able to produce, personally. So I honestly feel that this one's probably the best in the series, even though I did quite like Tiny Tina's Dungeons and Dragons experience, or whatever it was called. Attack on Dragon Keep? Yeah, that one. The Borderlands series though is definitely a more enjoyable FPS. I mean, it's kind of a FPS sandbox kind of game, really, isn't it? I think it's a low S. I think it's deserving of a low S, if I'm honest. This is going to be an unpopular opinion. Shadow of the Colossus. I know it's a cult series. I love what they did, but I think for me, there's a lot of parts of the game that feel a bit lackluster. I think it's a C tier. Yeah, I think C tier is about right for me for Shadow of the Colossus. I understand it's a classic and a lot of people love it, and I do agree there's a lot of good points and a lot of good moments within Shadow of the Colossus, but I feel even if I did move it up, it would move up by one tier. So I'm happy for that to sit there. Next up, Simpsons Road Rage. Didn't I just say Simpsons Road Rage was going to sit in S tier when I discussed Hit and Run? I think I did. So the reason for Road Rage immediately hitting in here is just it's a goofy racing game. It's not like meant to be taken seriously. It's just having fun with the characters, and there's a lot of good lines in it, and it was fun to move around the maps. And I remember you could do little cheat codes to like change your vehicle. So I used to quite enjoy making myself like a little. I think it was literally just like a little cereal box with wheels, and that was the car. So it was treated as Homer was the driver because of the voice lines, but there was nobody in the car. It was just a tiny little cereal box that the passengers would sit on. So that was funny. I also liked the missions. Some of the missions were pretty nail-bitingly frustrating. Next up, Team Fortress 2. I'd say I don't really like PvP games, and also FPS isn't overly my genre, but TF2 is just awesome. The amount of I don't play TF. I'm the guy who does the conga around in the multiplayer, but in the lobbies. By the way, I'm not the guy that goes around and try hard. So I'm the one that will stand there and often just try and find goofy stuff to do. So that's where I get my kicks in TF2. I think it's a solid A. Next up, Pokemon Colosseum. I don't think it's as good as Stadium. I think it's honestly an A tier again. So what brings up Colosseum is the really good storyline. As a sideline game, Colosseum, and then subsequently XD Gale of Darkness. But I never got to play XD Gale of Darkness, so I can't really say too much about that other than what I've seen of footage. But this is me just talking about my experience with Colosseum. So Colosseum was really good story. I really enjoyed the concept of shadow Pokemon. But I feel what sets also having the fact the Colosseum is the reason why Umbreon's my favourite Pokemon as well, by the way. I think what sets it back is how the battle system is, and I don't mean within the main game, of course. I mean the actual multiplayer battle system. Is that you have one of 7 or 8 preset teams to choose. It will just go, this is going to be your team. Do you want to proceed? And then you have to either say yes or no, and then just reshuffle it. I don't like that. I mean, the teams are different depending on the difficulty that you'd set the game to, which is quite cool. So, for instance, I'd often set it to. I mean, there was Ultimate, which was fine, but the Pokemon were just bland. So I'd often go to Hard instead of Ultimate or whatever, Expert, Master, whatever it was, because in Hard mode there was like a team with a Raichu on it. Sign me up. Next up, Tekken Tag Tournament. Specified Tekken Tag Tournament because me and my sister used to play this game so much back in the day. This is my favourite Tekken. This is S tier. Tekken 3 follows close second. but Tekken Tag Tournament is my favourite Tekken. 100%. I know they made a Tag Tournament 2 a few years ago, but I'm not sure if that's any better or worse. I've never played it. Next up, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Well, Sonic starts with an S, so it's going in there. I love the what got me with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is honestly, it was the Chow system. I did enjoy the missions as well. I enjoyed redoing the replays and the mission objective changes and stuff like that. That was also very cool. But I used to love raising Chow. That was a lot of my time was spent in Chow Garden, and then going out to missions to find the specific pets to get the specific parts and do all that. Pretty cool. Next up, League of Legends. Right. Okay. So with MOBAs, I'm a support player. That doesn't necessarily give me the reason for me being like, oh, I don't like this one, or oh, I do like that one. It's just, I don't know. MOBAs are just kind of whatever. I think MOBAs in general are just kind of on the lower side of tiers. I think most of them deserve E and D tier, if I'm honest. They don't. The PvP-ness and the try-hardiness is just so not my thing. The communities are toxic. The game itself isn't necessarily great. Most of them are just, I mean, especially with League of Legends, where there's just, oh, we release a new champion every 2 weeks and give every single one of them 17 different skins. But don't worry, that problem you had with that skill that doesn't work properly, we haven't fixed it for 18 years. No, um, sorry, League, you've got a big problem there. Next up, Smite. So, yes, I was more of a Smite player than a League player. But what's interesting about Smite is that with League of Legends, everybody's like, people are like, oh, but a lot of the skill shots are, a lot of the abilities are skill shots. Yeah, but in Smite, everything's a skill shot. From a skill point of view, Smite has more potential for when you're good, you're really good. Like, if you're really good, then you're like phenomenal. But what's different is that Smite's a slower paced gameplay for individual fights, but it's more mechanically demanding. I used to love Smite, but I think in general, in tiers, I have to give it an E or a D just because of the MOBA thing. I'll give it a D. I do like the fact though that Smite, of course, based itself around gods and stuff. I mean, the game used to be called Battleground of the Gods before they renamed it to Smite. But I think it says something like this. There's not a lot in it, if I'm honest. Again, that's partly due to my thoughts of MOBAs no longer cracking up to what my enjoyment of them was and not liking PvP anymore. Sure. But also, yeah, that's again, I sort of mentioned my gripes with the whole MOBA problems when I just talked about League of Legends. So Smite doesn't suffer with it quite as bad, but it is still pretty bad. It's just a MOBA thing. I'm also not a massive fan of how these days a lot of games come out and they're not really done. This is a separate point, but it leads from MOBAs because MOBAs are constantly having to change. I understand that's to keep metas from being stale, etc., but I like games which, when they're put out, they're done. They're not like, oh, put it out really quickly, make it buggy, and then we'll update it. Nah, just bring it out as a good game. Oops, wrong button. Next up, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, this one's going to surprise. I'm a massive Smash fan. Smash Ultimate is D tier. Yeah. I can't remember if I've got them all on, but I think if I was to rate every single Super Smash Bros., which I don't think I've got them all, Melee sits S, Brawl sits A, 64 sits C, I think. But honestly, the Ultimate sits D for me. I think it's a step backwards, if I'm honest, not a step forwards. The character roster is far bigger in Ultimate, which is cool. I like playing as Bayonetta. I also love the line which is like when she wins, she's like, if you want to learn how to talk to a girl, but may as well have a talk with your mum or whatever. Such a good line. But Ultimate's just a step back for me. I'm not a big fan of a lot of parts of it. I also don't remember there being a very good stage creator in Ultimate as well. There's not a subspace emissary. There's no story. It's just play through, and then the rest of it's just like yeah. Anyway, chess. So chess is the oldest game on this list. It's not been updated or received any sort of emergency patch notes for over like 700 years. So a game's pretty good when it gets released, and the meta and people change the meta without having to change the game. Now, I'm not the best at chess. It's also not my favorite game of all time. I think it's very fun. Don't get me wrong. So my tiering of this is going to look stupid based on my words. But I think it's a low A, high B. I don't think it's all that. So I'm going to stick it in the B line here. But know that it's probably here-ish and then could potentially move up. It's sort of nicely in the middle of all this, I guess. Next up, Rainbow Siege. Well, Rainbow Six Siege, I should say, sorry. Vegas 2 is far better. I don't like how minimalist Rainbow Six Siege is. The terrorist mode is also nowhere near as fun as it used to be back in, say, for instance, Vegas and Vegas 2. There's no excess, like, early Rainbow games were story. I remember my dad used to play Rainbow Six on PlayStation, and it just was the story. Rainbow Six Siege is so not an interest to me. I think it's stratification by the lightning seeds, quite honestly. If I was nice, it's E tier. I do enjoy playing as Montague and just running through with a shield, but it's such an unappealing game to me, so it's stratification by the lightning seeds. Honestly, I think I'd rather play charades sometimes. Again, it doesn't help that one of my bigger experiences with Rainbow Six Siege was somebody who's a complete knob and they were a bit of a sweat lord. And they didn't like the fact that I was just playing the game and that I don't have 360 radial vision. Anyway, Slay the Spire. Yeah, this is an easy top 5. Had the game on console since 2020. Love it. I got nothing more to say. You've seen me play enough of it. I think when this video's out, i.e. I'm going to publish it literally after I complete it. Today being the 20th, so I think you've got Slay the Spire 13 coming out later. 14. But in any case, I've got another like 10 videos in the hopper for Spire. I love it. There's more to come. I'm going to do all the videos of A0 to A20, then I'll just do maybe dailies, maybe some custom runs, stuff like that. I do love the game. It's got so much within it that I enjoy. If it wasn't in my top 5, realistically as a game, it's probably A tier, if I'm honest. The actual game objectively is A tier, but it's one of my favourite games, so it's sitting in my top 5. Next up, Path of Exile, often known as Poe, and in my circle of friends we call it Pogo Burr because we all got it on PlayStation, and we had error reports every half an hour of playing. So I've even tried to run this on my laptop, and it's just not ever really worked that well. So from a performance issue, the game's got some problems. The game itself is pretty fun. I enjoy messing around with different builds. But quite honestly, I don't think I can rate it higher than a C. I mean, the skill tree is amazing, and the game's potential is high, but there's the main story mode, which is what I spend most of my time in because I create a character and then go, I'm going to make a different kind of character, and then I start again. It's just, yeah, it's a C. I can't really do much more than that, if I'm honest. Next up, Pokemon Hoenn, or if you want to be precise, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Pokehoen's just a shorter way of doing it, isn't it? Really covers all three. It's my favorite it's my favorite region of Pokemon. I love the introduction of the abilities. I love the introduction of the nature system. The Pokemon contests were wicked. You think about this. There's a lot of good key items that came from this one, such as VersaSeeker was cool, or the idea to repeat. Because up until Hoenn, you couldn't really repeat outwards field fights. Other than, yes, in Gold and Silver you had the phone system. But that was kind of... Yeah, you get a call from Joey wanting you to see the progress of his Rattata. Get out of here, Joey. So, really, I think Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald might sit here for now. Actually, there's gonna be a little bit of leeway / movement in here, but that will sit there for now. Again, I don't really think about what I've got going on. I think there's a board game coming up for top 5 as well, actually. So almost definitely going to be moving around. Next up, Quiplash. So Jackbox for me is basically just Quiplash and Fibbage. I love Quiplash. I think Quiplash is a solid A tier. Again, I could talk about, well, Quiplash is originally from Jackbox 2. But for me, Quiplash is just great. It's just is the whole Jackbox series. As I say, it's Quiplash, Fibbage, and Drawful. Yeah. The main ones for me are all just sort of A tier ish. Next up, Cards Against Humanity. Very fun, unhinged game. Like, the amount of times I play it and I just piss myself with laughter is just too many. With that being said, overall, I think the problem with Cards Against Humanity is if you play it too much, you get so used to what the cards are, you're like, oh, this isn't funny anymore. So you have to play once every goodness knows how long, or else you don't find it funny anymore. So it's got like this weird in-between point. Yes, you can buy expansions. You'll eventually use all them cards as well, so the point still stays. I think it's a B tier, if I'm honest. So, realistically speaking. Next up. Don't Starve. This is the picture of Don't Starve Together, but I'm going to put Don't Starve and Don't Starve Together as the same because they are basically the same game. Strangely, for all the games I play, this is one that I've played and I've not enjoyed. I think this one's a D tier for me. Just because, you know what, there's not a lot in C. Let's start to make the pictures bigger make the pictures more prominent. Just because I don't find it as interesting. I don't know. It's just like a survival simulator, and I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of cool, but okay, fine. Then that's it. Play it for like 5 minutes, get bored, and then just leave, kind of thing. So next up, 007 Nightfire. Yeah, my favourite James Bond game. I include GoldenEye in that statement, right? 007 Nightfire was better than GoldenEye. Simple. This is an S tier. No, stop doing the double click thing. So anyway, this is in S tier. There was also a couple others that were on the GameCube, sort of PlayStation 2 era that I enjoyed. I think it was called Agent Under Fire. It was like a third person GoldenEye. Sorry, a third person James Bond game. Pretty good. Or was that on Double or Nothing? There was Agent Under Fire and Double or Nothing. One of them was really good. The other one was kind of arse. Flip it around. Whichever one was the one where you could do multiplayer with third person as the main quest line. That's the good one. Next, Screwball Scramble. I mean, yeah, you do it, and then that's it. You're done. It's not like you go, "Oh, yay, Screwball Scramble, now I can play this for 7 hours." You play it, you complete it, you go, "Yeah, I remember how to do this," and then you just don't touch it again. Honestly, E tier. If I'm gonna be completely honest, that's my fair assessment. My unfair assessment is Jollification by the Lightning Seeds. Halo 3. Yeah, regarded as probably the best Halo. I don't know if I've put Halo Reach in here, but for me it's Halo Reach. Anyway, Halo 3 had the best Forge mode, probably. I mean, the Halo Reach one was more. The Halo Reach one was more had more potential for experimentation, but what was done with the Halo 3 ones was better, I think. Plus, it felt more original because, of course, Halo 3 was first by about 5, 6 years. But in any case, Halo 3, between a really good campaign that wrapped up the main story quite nicely, and the good custom games, I honestly feel this is an S tier. I also used to enjoy Griffball, which, if you don't know, is a game mode where you had to keep a hold of a skull, and people would attack you with gravity hammers. So much fun. Next up, Metroid Prime Echoes. So, Samus Aran is a badass, but honestly, Echoes, I have one I prefer of Metroid in this that I've got ready in the hopper, but I think Echoes was decent. I mean, as just a basic shooter game, and just for the basic story mode of it, the Metroid Prime games were good, but I don't think they're all that. I'll give it a B tier. I never got to play Corruption. I know that was on the Wii U or the Switch or whatever. That did look pretty good. Next up, Ocarina of Time. So I mentioned something about how Wind Waker was my favorite Zelda game, right? Yeah. This art is more for Ocarina of Time, but I'll use this for both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I think. Honestly, the games are really cool. The soundtracks are amazing. But I feel overall that it's an A tier on both, because Majora's Mask is a little rushed. It was made in something like 7, 8 months, so they didn't have time to polish and refine it, so there was quite a few issues. And as for Ocarina of Time, yes, it's probably one of the cornerstones of gaming, but I don't think it had as much fun and appeal to it for me as what Wind Waker does. I do like the mechanic of going between young and adult Link. It's cool, but there's some aspects of. Plus, I used to be sort of scared of Ocarina of Time. I didn't used to get to play it much when I was younger, but I've then revisited it when I was older, and then I was like, yeah, this game is cool, but I still prefer Wind Waker. Was kind of what I was thinking while I was playing it. Right? Grow Castle. Yeah, I've made a few videos on it by now, haven't I? I'm gonna be super realistic on what this game is. It's a C tier, right? No matter how much you play it, or some people will play it a lot, some people play it a little bit. It's still a phone app game at the end of the day. Really, it shouldn't be all that. I can't honestly give up. Even if I bumped it, it'd be a B. It's not like, oh my god, this game is so cracked. No, it's just a standard little cutesy. Here's some cool people fighting monsters before they hit a tower game. That's as a phone app. Yeah, it's as much as I can give it. Spore is one of the most. I feel like Spore is one of the most robbed games, right? And I don't mean like people robbing it. I just mean what I mean by a robbed game is more like the experience that we got from Spore was that of a robbed experience, because it's only half fleshed. I feel everything beyond Creature Stage is just kind of meh. The they never made they never sort of developed upon what the potential they had within, like, say for instance the creature mode was. all the rest of it. So I just feel like it could have been more than what it was. It was a little disappointing and a letdown. So it's either B or C, actually. Let's go C tier. High C, low B. I like Creature Creator, but honestly, it's about as much as I can say. I found most of the stages in it boring. Next up, Sorry. Yeah, it's pretty much just Ludo but with cards. Honestly, not one of my favorites. Sorry. Not sorry. But it is sorry. I think it's D tier. There's better out there. Half-Life 2. So, another controversial opinion. I think the campaign of Half-Life 2 was cool, but I sort of did it, and then I'm like, I don't think I'd ever do it again. I think it's a B tier. It's just a baseline alright game, I guess. It's as much as you're getting out of me. Next up, Skyrim. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to move top 5 quite heavily. I'm gonna put Underground 2 down for now. I did say it was a bit of a meh. Then Skyrim's gonna move up here for now. Something might move down, and that something might either be Monster Hunter or Spire. As usual, I want my top 5 to be like my top 15 and just be like, yeah, this is what it is. But there we go. That'll do for now. Next up, Wii Sports. Has been for years. It still is the most sold game of video game, but that's mostly because it came with the Wii. And the Wii was the most sold console and wasn't touched for a very long time. So I think the fact of the Wii Sports being the most sold game might now be obsolete. I think Wii Sports and Switch Sports are about as fun as each other. So you can take my rating of Wii Sports and treat that to Switch Sports too. I think Wii Sports is a B tier, if I'm honest. It's fun, it's got its moments, but honestly, it's about there. Next up, Metroid Prime Hunters. So I really enjoyed Hunters, actually. This is a really good game for the story mode was kind of meh, but I enjoyed the multiplayer part of it, really. What was also great about Prime Hunters is that it worked with DS Download Play. So I had a copy of this, and then my neighbors could join me despite not owning it. Very cool. Except they had to play as certain characters if it was DS Download Play. Either ones I assigned, or it was like the game was like you have to play as this character. Can't remember. But overall, I still think it's within B tier, but it's you know what, I did say I don't want to move too many icons, but I want to move this one. I want to put this front here. Oh no, I'm going to have to do some movements here. Apologies for this. I need to do something like that, but then I need to also press the back on this from here, I think. Something like that? Yeah, there we go. That works. Next up, Risk of Rain. I'd love to be able to talk about Risk of Rain 2. Still haven't played it. But Risk of Rain was a game I learned how to speedrun. I got the insides and outs of this game. It's awesome. For a simple 2D PvE side-scrolling adventure, it's fun. I think it's A tier. I don't think it's S tier worthy, but it is very on the cusp of. Next up, Osu. Prepare for an unfair rating. I was not very good at Osu. For me personally, if I was to go, if it was a tier list based on my skills within the game, Osu is about a D or an E tier, right? But then again, if it was based on my skills, Smite would probably be a B tier. I mean, I was gold in MOBAs. Not awful, not great, but not exactly awful. That's like a top 50% or whatever. But what Osu's creativity is and what I've seen people be able to do with Osu makes it so much more than what I could do. And I think it's really cool how the game has, like, you can put in whatever you want and make the game go. So I really like the open-ended creativity of Osu. I think that bumps it up massively. So I think for me, I'd put it in B tier. It's probably worthy of a slightly higher tier, but this is my tier list. I'm sticking it in B. Have fun. I said something about Halo Reach, didn't I? When I was talking about Halo 3. I said about how I preferred. No. So I preferred the sandbox mode of Halo 3. I preferred Forge mode, but Halo Reach's campaign was just, to me, better. I actually loved. Oops, sorry. It's because it's messing around on me. I actually really liked Halo Reach. For me, Halo Reach was my favourite Halo game. So I think this is better, if I'm honest. Something like that. Next up, Hogs of War for the PlayStation. I think when I was grabbing images, I saw something about how they're going to be making another Hogs of War. I bloody hope so. This game was awesome. So much fun. Rick Mail did a great job with the voice lines on this game. Rest in peace. So funny to go back and listen to what he did. So much fun. Basically, Hogs of War is a 3D version of. I know there's Worms 3D, but this is like a 3D version of Worms, but with like so much humor put into the game. It's just on another level. That being said, Concrete Donkeys and Worms. Next up, Super Monkey Ball. I really enjoyed the. I didn't enjoy the main missions of the game. I actually preferred the like Super Monkey Billiards too much. The game itself is probably C tier, and that's because Monkey Target and Monkey Billiards boost it up. Everything else is kind of just mid. Next up, Brawl. Right, so I said that Brawl would be an A tier, right? I was talking about it with Smash Ultimate because I couldn't remember what pictures I had and hadn't grabbed. Brawl is A tier. I said Melee would be S tier. So Brawl is A tier. I loved Subspace Emissary. I liked the level creation mode. I hated having to trip over everything. The trip mechanic was just so unneeded. I get that they kind of added it to sort of help with Diddy's little banana thing, but you didn't need to make it that you could trip every 7 seconds, dude. That was a bit too much. Also, I felt like Brawl was a slower pace than Melee. I quite enjoyed Melee's faster reactive pace. Plus, there was a point where I was actually pretty effective at wave dashing. So, for me, Melee had that edge. Next up, Worms. I just talked about Worms with Hogs of War. Yeah, Worms is great. Worms is as good as Hogs of War. Hogs of War. Yeah, I think it's A tier. All forms of Worms, whether it be Armageddon, 3D, whatever, Worms Reloaded, they're all Worms is Worms. There you go. Next, My Sims. I wish there was more capacity for My Sims to exist. I know there was like My Sims goofy little like there was My Sims Kingdoms and My Sims Agents and all this random goofy crap, but the original My Sims, brilliant game. I'm gonna stick at B tier. I liked how the game had different moods and that you could use the moods to paint the specially created stuff that you made. I really was a fan of that. Plus, the blueprint system was really cool. So, definitely gets a special shout out. Next up, Angry Birds. Yeah, C. If you're lucky, maybe D. Yeah. Moving on. Spyro the Dragon. I'm talking original. You talk about the original Spyro the Dragon, nothing else. Here, this is. I think fairly certain this is the image from back in PlayStation days rather than the remaster. I'm talking specifically the original one. Although Elijah Wood eventually took the mantle of Spyro in what was it, Spyro: A New Beginning? That game was called Spyro New Beginning, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the original Spyro, A tier, decent platformer. Back in the was you had like Spyro and Crash. They were just the platforming goodness. Spyro being more of a fantasy. This is cool. I get to play as a dragon and fly. And then Crash Bandicoot was more of the parody of adventure stuff, but platforming stuff. So those are good. They were good fun games. I think they're worthy A tiers. This is going to seem unfair to Osu fans, Donkey Konga and Donkey Konga 2. I much prefer, personally. I loved the music. I mean, they used Nintendo tracks. Obviously, they would do. It's Nintendo. Nintendo making a Nintendo game will use Nintendo tracks, and they used a few covers of stuff. Like there's a cover that they use for "You Can't Hurry Love" in Donkey Konga, which is actually pretty good. I mean, of course, it's not going to be no Phil Collins, but it's a decent cover. And they use a few classical bits as well, like Hungarian Number 5 and D minor, and they use Turkish March and a couple other bits. But I do like what they chose. Plus, I liked the mini games. I used to really enjoy the mini games. I think this is an A tier too, almost S tier, but I did enjoy having like the conga sets. So you'd have left, right, and clap were all different sounds. I mean, both together was just the sounds of left and right. But for instance, there was a set just called the conga set where it was like left is Don, right is key, and then clap is conga. So you could just do left, right, clap, and just keep going Donkey Konga. I used to use that as kind of a wind up my sister while we were playing multiplayer. So much fun. Left 4 Dead 2. Good fun game. I enjoy the story mode, but I feel that once you've done it, you've done it. Honestly, B tier. Also, feck that gnome, am I right? Took me and the lads about 3 gaming sessions to get that freaking gnome mission done eventually. Back in the days. Next up, I've mentioned Melee a few times over. Let's just roll with it. When I first saw Melee back in the days, that just had me. I love adventure mode. The character roster is great. It's not like there's not like 7 Marths. There's only like 3 of there's only like 2 of them in this one. And even then, Roy was different enough to be considered not a Marth clone for the purpose of Melee. Yeah, I think it's there. Honestly, my favourite Smash Bros. Game. Right, I can now talk about GTAs. So I'm not talking the specific ones, but if you really were interested, this is the picture for Grand Theft Auto. This is the picture for Grand Theft Auto 5. My premise isn't them specific ones. My premise here is isometric 2D GTA versus full 3D GTA. So I need to explain. The first Grand Theft Autos, I've got a special edition which has Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Auto 2, and the Grand Theft Auto London edition. They're the top downs. They're your isometric top down GTAs. Now, what annoys me about those is the control systems. They changed the control systems every single different 2D GTA. So when you're playing from one to the next, it's really confusing. One of them's like you rotate with D left and D right, and forward is always D-pad up and backwards is D-pad down. The next one's like, nah, you just press the D-pads whichever direction you want to go, and based on where you're at, forehead. So it becomes a bit tedious. Also, like the police system wasn't as good in the 2D era. So I'm gonna put the 2D era of GTA in D tier. Is that cheating? Yes. My tier list. Go away. Anyway, GTA 3D comprises of GTA 3 onwards. Oh, for GTA 2D, I think there's also Chinatown Wars or something like that on DS, but I'm not counting that. I'm talking old GTA. Same with Grand Theft Auto 3D. I'm not including like Liberty City Stories in this, but realistic for 3D, I'm talking GTA 3, San Andreas, Vice City, GTA 4, GTA 5. That sort of thing. The I could give a point of GTA Vice City was the best one. GTA Vice City was probably high A, low S, right? I think GTA 5 sits about B tier. GTA 3 was kind of arse and was kind of C or D tier. And I think San Andreas was probably about B tier, honestly. Actually, Vice City would be A tier. So I think for the GTA 3Ds, I think B tier is generous, especially considering that I find GTA 5 lackluster. I kind of like the heists, but there's so much setup, and it's just the lobby, the matchmaking mechanics are just so bad. The Revenant and I have been even to literally. Revenant and I were playing Sunday. I mean, today is Wednesday. We were playing on Sunday, right? So 4 days ago. 4 days ago. We were in the same friends only lobby. He was CEO. I was his, underling. We completed a mission. It kicked us both out of the session into separate public sessions. Despite being in the same session, the same CEO thing, once we completed a mission, the game was like, screw you, get kicked. Not a fan. Big put off on the experience. Also, you can't get unlimited ammo or anything fun in GTA 5. I wish there was like some mode that you could do where it's just like, here, have all the ammo and just have fun with it, because that was part of the fun of the older GTAs. R1, R2, L1, R2, left, down, right, up, and then either left, down, right, up again, left, down, 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 or left, down, down, left. There's all three of your weapon cheats. Have fun. Next, Minecraft. A tier. It's not S tier purely because I find that the game doesn't have replayability for me. It has periodic replayability, and by that I mean you play it for a few weeks, go, yeah, this is really good, get back out of it. The game has got limitless creativity, but for me, I feel the whole experience is an A. Next up, Mario Party Superstars. Was I going to talk about all Mario Parties here or just Mario Party Superstars? Let's just talk Superstars. I like how it takes some of the older boards. It's a shame that literally Spaceland is ours. I like the use of taking a lot of the other good minigames from previous ones and putting them all into one. But I feel that this is a B tier. Next up, Honey Hop. Don't laugh. A really good match 3 game. I'm taking all the H stuff out, right? This is we're taking out. Actually, I'm just gonna. Can I do that? Can I make it upside down? Oh man, no. But I can, right? Because I could do this. I'm just having fun here. There we go. So anyway, the actual game mechanics behind this is actually pretty good. I quite enjoyed the fact that you could use items to do certain effects. I like how it was like a full drag one. A lot of like Bejeweled based match threes are, just click one tile over. I quite like the stuff this had. I didn't like the whole finding out about the characters and giving them items and stuff. The last bit, the excess bits, for those who know what I'm talking about, are kind of not part of what I enjoy in the game nowadays. Sure, okay, I'll admit it. I bought it initially for sort of the whole game, but these days I'm actually I want to play the match free stuff, and then when the other stuff comes up, I want to skip it. I just enjoy I quite like the match free part of it, but at the end of the day, it's still a match 3. Let's go and C tier. That was a lot of a rant for a game I'm putting in C, huh? Banjo-Kazooie. Oh yes, the nostalgia. Banjo-Kazooie was a great game. Honestly, I feel like most of the platformers deserve a solid A tier. Banjo-Kazooie is one of them. It's actually pretty good fun. Next up, Beat Saber. So for me, Beat Saber has a massive caveat. It's a VR game, and that's not great for me. Plus, the initial colors are really difficult to see. I have to have certain colored sabers, and even then, I can't find something that quite works whenever I play the game. For me, Beat Saber sits below Osu. I'm actually better at Beat Saber than Osu, but the game itself, again, a massive amount of creativity, but just for me, Beat Saber's not quite as good. When it comes to VR games, I do enjoy the Space Pirate Simulator one. So Beat Saber's going to go D, maybe C. Let's go. You know what? I don't like this being here. I'll have this be here. Perfect. What the hell is this? Oh, it's because it's small. Darkest Dungeon. Awesome. I've discussed before, I love Wayne June's voice. The fact that having a voice in the game was an afterthought is these days would be seen as absolute criminal because Wayne June just freaking carries it. Such a good game. I think it's high A, low S. I'm going to do this for now. Just remember, overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. Next up, Excite Truck. This was the Wii game. Oh my god, I want another one. I want this game again. This is so good. Honestly, for a racing game, you could play as like 4x4s and do like spins in the air and stuff. This one is sublime. Honestly, this is gonna sit. Where did I put Mario Kart 8? I can't put this above Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 is S tier. Good. This could be low S then. It's not. It's obviously not Mario Kart tier, but my god, does it give it a good go. Good run for its money. I suppose good drive for its money. Anyway, Dead by Daylight. Yeah, I used to enjoy the game a lot. Nowadays, I'm just like, yeah. For me, Dead by Daylight sits probably about here, D tier, E tier. I enjoy watching gameplay footage. I think Oddstarver is a friggin' wizard, man. Oddstarver is honestly a wizard, but for me, this game is just kind of poop tier. Next up, EU4. And that's why I need to move my top 5 and give it some actual consideration. Oopsie daisy. Right, I said I want minimal efforts on the movement as possible. Let's move Skyrim down. But it is like top of S tier, just bear in mind. EU4 sits here. I think there's one other move I'm going to have to perform in my top 5. Thinking about it now, because I think there's one more in here I really wanted to put in there. Next up, F-Zero GX. Wonderful racing game. So, in racing games, I think Mario Kart is my favourite. Then, Excite Truck and F-Zero are basically the same. F-Zero GX was just so good. It really was. But I think Excite Truck's slightly better, so this is like this is like A to S, but like just about touches S. Bust-A-Move. I used to play a lot of Bust-A-Move 4. I think Bust-A-Move is a great game. I think it's a simple premise. B tier. Gravity Rush. Really clever puzzles. Good story. Good graphics. Really worth a look in. Low A tier. I might have to put some of these pictures as single spaces with this A tier. But luckily, Sonic Heroes is not quite Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, is it? Sonic Heroes was fun, but I feel like it was B tier. I feel the lack of a good multiplayer let it down. Hollow Parade, yes, I'm still playing this game. I think it's really cool. It's just a fun little gimmicky pick up, put down kind of game. I think it's C tier. It's just a cutesy in and out. I'm slightly trying to go quicker because I can't remember how many more I have, but you know, I just realised how long this video is already. Halo 4, I was notification by the lightning seeds. Literally, but when I first got Halo 4, I booted it up on Legendary. I never touched it below difficulty. It was never any issues. It was boring. The campaign was stale. I hate what they did to Cortana. There was no real plot line. Why did he just conveniently wake up and stuff from a stupid whatever? It's just a thing of stupid, and I don't like Forerunners either. That was just boring. Next, Bloons TD4. Probably the better of the Bloons games, in my opinion. I think Bloons TD4 is a B tier. Next up, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Not the stupid Modern Warfare 2 of the new version, because that's technically Modern Warfare 5. I don't know why they needed to give it a reboot with the exact same name. Could have used literally any other than Infinite. They could have used any other tagline than Modern. They could have made it like Advanced Warfare or, something cooler. Anyway, Modern Warfare 2 is S tier. I think it's got... I put up Spec Ops last night as a video. The multiplayer was brilliant. The story was awesome. S tier. Yeah, simple. Dead Island. Really fun game. I love the sort of the creativity in the fact that you could use all 4 characters to your own whims. However, the story was a little short. B tier. Donkey Kong 64. Awesome little adventure game. I actually played it more than Super Mario 64 back in the day. I think it's a B tier. I really enjoyed it though. It might be A tier. It's A tier actually. Let's go. Wonderful game. Bazans. Colloquially in my friend group we call it Yeet the Wheat. Really good card game. I need to give this one the time that it deserves because nobody knows this game. Basically, it's a card game where you have to the cards are auctioned off, and people pay the points via their cards to then receive the cards that are placed out, and then from there it's like a match 3. Highest point value in the 3 you sell gives you the points of that one. Highest points wins. Really fun game. Honestly, as a card game, as a board game card game, it's in my top 5. But as a overall games, it's in my S tier. Definitely. Animal Crossing Wild World. My favourite of the Animal Crossing games, but honestly, it's a B tier. Simple. After a while, you just kind of go, eh. It's one of them ones where you're like, what's the end goal? Like, you just keep you're just in a spiraling debt, and then when you finish debt, you're like, okay, but what now? Bloons TD. Not gonna lie, kinda arse. You could just use balloon monkeys and just that's it. I think probably E tier actually. Real Sabor, cool little matching dice game. Pretty good fun. You kind of need pen and paper or like your mobile phone app to keep you score, but otherwise pretty good. Let's go there. Bayonetta, awesome. Really enjoyed it. S tier for me. I prefer it over Devil May Cry, honestly. It might be worse than some of the later Devil May Cries, but honestly, Devil May Cry, the first one, i.e. Devil May Cry, versus Bayonetta. Bayonetta wins, easy. Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts. Quirky little racing game. I think it's underrated. I'm going to give it a B tier. Crash Team Racing, honestly, I think that as a racing game, it's kind of... I gave the soundtrack, a C tier. I think the overall game deserves a B tier, if we're honest with ourselves. We tried out House on the Hill. Why could I not make this my top 10? That would have been so much cooler. Map mode. My top 10. Screw you guys, I'm doing it. There's enough here to warrant this. No, don't move the cream background. Move the text. Awesome, cool. This is the one that's made me go, I want a top 10 because I love Betrayal at House on the Hill. Therefore, I'm also going to... Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Let's leave that open for now. Oh, I just mentioned about how I preferred Bayonetta to Devil May Cry. The first Devil May Cry I found a bit clunky and awkward. That's going to go C tier because I've run out of room. But it's high C, low B. Is that unfair? Yes, I don't care. I also need to move 3 things from probably S tier into my top 10. Let's go Nightfire. 2, 4, 6, 7. What else did I say I was really going to put near S, like my top 10? Skyrim was in there, so let's move that back in. 8. Let's put Pokemon Stadium up there. Poggers 9. Then let's put. I'll leave the temp slot open. You know, allow me that much. There we go. Look at that. Then Modern Warfare 2 could be a shop. So could Bazans. But let's do that. Looking good. Right. Backgammon. Oh, no, I know what I'm going to put in my top 10. I need that slot open. Brilliant. Good. Backgammon. Right. Okay. It's alright, I guess. Not my favourite game, but it's decent enough as a board game. C tier. Awesome. Ah, yeah, there you go. That's why I wanted the 10th one. Boggle. Freaking love it. This is actually going to go into B tier. Boggle's really cool. It's like, Boggle is my jam. I might not be able to speak words, but I sure as hell know a lot of words. As you can tell from my various ramblings. Settlers of Catan going in my top 10. Love it. Awesome game. Hex-based. Hex and turn-based dice rolling game. It's got cards and dice and strategy and all the rest of it. Very cool game. Top 10. Awesome. Very nice. Onrush. Awesome racing game. Really good fun. Let's I think it's worthy of a B tier, honestly. Put nuts and bolts there, and Onrush can do this. Munchkin, really, really fun board game. Awesome. Me and the boys love it. It's so chaotic. I'm gonna put it in S tier. Really good fun. Swords and Sandals. This one's Sword and Sandals 2 specifically because look at the dude in the Minotaur helmet. That's one of the bosses. I can't remember what one it is, but let's put Swords and Sandals across the board. So hold on. Swords and Sandals 1 would probably be E tier or D tier. I think this is worthy of a C tier, honestly. Next up, Dead Space. C tier. It's okay. Not a particularly favoured game of mine, so it's in there. Plague Inc. Evolved, kind of cool, but once you've done it, you've done it. I feel overall it's a D tier. It's not got much replayability. It's kind of okay. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Look at this. This is the this is Red Blue Rescue Team. Remember in the OST I was talking about the whole blue team looking down into red team and because it's like the cartridges and a DS. Well, now you can see it as a full image. Really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. The story mode was so much fun. And the fact that you could just go into loads of the post game was really, really good in the Mystery Dungeon series. I'm gonna put this in S tier. Oh, last. Very nice. Point Blank. Old game on the PlayStation, really good fun. Was meant to work with the PlayStation gun, but honestly the PlayStation gun was arse. And we never had one, so it's good. With the controller. I enjoyed the minigames, it was funky, but honestly I think it's worthy of about a D tier. Right. So yeah, there you go. The first time I've had beyond the top 5, and that I've actually brute forced it this time. For the most part, that's pretty satisfying. Some of this is a little interchangeable in my top 10. As I've discussed, Underground 2 was great, but otherwise you can pretty much take this to be pretty much what I'd say. Bazans is also a very good competitor for top 10. I thought I had Cribbage in here, did I not? Damn, I didn't have Cribbage in here. Was it not in my... Hold on. Just one quick oversight thing. I could have sworn I had Cribbage in here. Game tier list. Yeah, where did Cribbage go? What the hell, man? Disappeared. It's like a top 10 contender. What's it doing not putting itself in? Poop. So, honestly, I quite like it's probably either. Actually, no, I don't need to edit my top 10. I was going to make it my top 11 and meme it out, but honestly, no, let's just do that. Okay, now I'm content. What the hell happened to Cribbage, man? Why did it not do it? Oh, I'll end by saying Cribbage is a really fun game. It involves removing cards from a deck to make a third deck, and the third deck gets rotated between which players have it. But what's really funny is if you've got a jack, let's say for instance I had the jack of spades in my hand, and the drawn out card was a spade, because there's a part in the game where you cut the deck, or where the non-dealer cuts the deck, flips over the card. If that card is the same as the jack suit in your hand, so let's say I have the jack of spades and I cut out the seven of spades, the point would be called one for his knob. Not even kidding. That is the actual term. One for his knob. Great game. Good fun. Anyway, here's my games tier list. Any other games you want me to do? I could do a game list part 2 or whatever. But for now, I feel I've got most of the big ones covered. It's Wednesday. I want to get this uploaded, and I'll get the F out of H to go see my nephews. Peace.